All right, let's bring our panelists in now for reaction. Host of the Jason Rantz Show, Jason Rantz himself, retired U.S. Marine Corps gunnery sergeant and Newsmax analyst Jessie Jane Duff, and host of the 13-minute news hour, Bobby Eberle. Panelists, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Jessie, if I could start with you. You can react to Ryan if you'd like, or you can react to Senator Warren saying the right to abortion is constitutional. Adam Schiff doesn't care that it leaked. There's a buffet. Enjoy.
Exactly. And what about Jen Psaki just basically giving a wink and a nod to the American public that this is okay? First of all, protests outside of a public official's home in Virginia is actually illegal. It's against the law. And Jen Psaki should know that this is against the standards of all Americans to have protests, whether peaceful or not, outside of anybody's residence. You have a right to your own privacy. Your homes and addresses should never be doxxed. She came out very, very soft on this, basically suggesting that they really don't care. Seeing everybody turn around and say, we don't care that it got leaked. Guess what? This is now their political punching bag for them to try to restore their last-ditch efforts to win in 2022. And what they're trying to do is divide and exploit the same way they did exploiting the George Floyd riots over race. Now abortion is all they have. But what they don't understand is the American people are not on their side. This will become a states' rights issue. It is not against the Constitution. And this is a losing argument for the left, but this is all they have.
Bobby, is it somewhat a part of the media in the way this story is portrayed, that if Roe's overturned, abortion is illegal, and it's a blanketed decision, in which case it's not true. It sends it back to the states, and again, the state legislature, you obviously can vote and things of that nature. But is the media somewhat in part to play for this, for the understanding of what this outcome would mean if indeed it is overturned?
Well, yeah, absolutely, because the media are pushing a narrative. They want to say that this is the end of the world if we simply follow the Constitution. I mean, I always have a hard time when they talk about conservative judges, because conservative and liberal really don't apply in the same way they do in a political sense. We just want judges to not be legislators, to apply the Constitution. If they do that, you know that these decisions were bad from the get-go. But what the media want you to understand or want you to think is that this is somehow some dreadful decision that will just outlaw it across the land. We know that states like California, they'll never overturn abortion, which is funny that they had LA riots in a state that is going to be a haven for the pro-abortion people until the end of time, probably, until we can get some good legislators there. But yeah, the media are definitely pushing a narrative that is 100% false.
Yeah, also this poll here, too, and then I'll get to you, Jason. I'll show you this. This is from Washington Post, ABC News. Should the Supreme Court uphold or overturn Roe v. Wade? Again, opinion here. 54%, the majority say uphold it. 28% say overturn, and 18% that responded actually had no opinion on it. But this is, again, different than thoughts or beliefs. This is a court that is trying to follow the Constitution, or at least that's is what it is intended to do. Final thoughts, Jason.
Yeah, but I think part of the polling, when you look at some of the questions, when they get very specific into when abortion should be either stopped or at least reduced, then you get a completely different answer. And 15 weeks seems to be that number that a lot of Americans, when polled, think that's when you probably shouldn't go forward with an abortion. I think that that's an important part, and it has to go to the education. I mean, we hear lawmakers, including my own Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal from Seattle, claiming that what's next? Gay marriage. What's next? Interracial marriage. Interracial marriage wasn't even decided on anything similar to what we're talking about in Roe v. Wade. And so I think Republicans have to step up and make sure that we're not allowing the left to completely control this narrative, because they're flatly lying about what this case actually has to do with.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Out of time for this segment. But panelists, if you don't mind, stick around. A major news day, a lot going on. We're going to hear from you guys in just a minute. All right, welcome back. Let's take a look back at the week that was here on a Friday. It seems to make sense here. Standing by our panelists there, Jason Rantz, Jessie Jane Duff, Bobby Eberle. Thanks for sticking around here. So let's just dive right in here, Jessie, if we can here. Talking about midterms, talking about primaries, any Trump-backed candidate has seen victory so far. Is this a sign of things to come with a 55-0 record here of what could happen in the midterms with a Trump endorsement? As, again, he's having a rally tonight in Pennsylvania, Trump.
It's quite obvious. It's quite obvious to me that President Trump is definitely having an influence on this, because when he holds these rallies, you're talking tens of thousands of people are showing up. They're obviously still very engaged, still very supportive of the America First agenda. And when we look at how J.D. Vance took a lead after he was falling behind in Ohio, and Trump showed up and he grabbed it and ran ahead and has now won that primary, we know that there is a significant value behind President Trump's endorsement. It doesn't mean in all cases, but I generally think that people will consider or give a double take at a candidate based upon that endorsement. His voice is very powerful, and they know in order for President Trump to run again in 2024, he has to have a Senate and a Congress that will back him. Otherwise, it's unsuccessful for him coming out of the gate.
That primary in Ohio is considered a referendum on the power that Trump wields, Bobby Eberle. And J.D. Vance did pull out that win, I believe, by 10 percentage points. It wasn't a small margin there by any means. Your thoughts on that, and now looking at how the Republican Party is shaping up and how significant the Trump endorsement is still within the GOP?
Well, we have two things going on. We have the power of Trump, which we've seen, and Jesse Jane, described it very well. We also have the power of Joe Biden and the radical left and how they are driving independents away from the Democrats and to the Republican Party. I believe over 70 races the NRCC, the Congressional Committee for the Republicans, are targeting, House races, over 70. That means that Democrats are going to have to put money into districts that they didn't think they would have to, that they thought were safe. I see a red wave like we haven't seen since, 2010, 1994, those types of conditions, all because of the way that the Biden administration has pushed the American people away and just adopted this woke radical left ideology that no one supports.
Yeah, Jason Rantz, Bobby's got a point as well. Could it be that those on the left and their policies, some considered radical, could push people to the other side of the aisle?
Absolutely. Obviously, some of these issues are more regional than not. But if you're talking about, for example, the schools going so far to the left and pushing open indoctrination on students, I do think that the mothers and fathers are going to sit back and say, enough is enough. We can't do this. The brand around the Democratic Party has been enshrined with this kind of fringe belief, and they're going to pay for it, particularly amongst those independents. While at the same time, you've got inflation through the roof. There's the general cost of living for most Americans is becoming unsustainable. And let's be honest here. I mean, the leak, while it was awful from the Supreme Court, probably helps Republicans a little bit in that it's further or farther away from the actual election than it otherwise would have been, which I do think could have delivered some momentum for the Democrats. All we have now is more time to reflect on the fact that life in this country is extraordinarily expensive.
Very interesting. Okay, I've got about, I think, less than 30 for each of you left. Let's talk about Karine Jean-Pierre taking over for White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. This will start Friday the 13th, next week. And it has been dubbed, Jean-Pierre will be the first black LGBTQ plus woman to hold the position. There are also reports that her partner, whom she lives with, works at CNN. Again, the announcement there, Jesse Jane Duff, I'll start with your reaction there, about 30 seconds for each person.
I've seen her fill in for Jen Psaki several times. She's actually hasn't gone quite as radical as Jen Psaki, but also that was only as a fill-in. I don't expect anything different out of her. I expect more of the same, of basically deflecting and justifying everything that Joe Biden wants to have and push his agenda through. I don't expect her to acknowledge any GOP agendas as being correct.
Yeah, and Bobby Eberle, I'll go to you, and also the media description of her, a historic moment, again, pointing out to the color of her skin and who she prefers behind closed doors, and these are the accolades that are touted. And again, the headline isn't she went to this school or she was a spokesperson for this company, which you would typically think would be the standards. Your reaction to how the media portrays this? Right,
yeah, you're talking about the White House press secretary, and the first things they put out is race and sexual orientation. Yet this was a person who was active in MoveOn.org at a very high level, pushing radical policies. She's come out with pushing racial division, bashing straight white men when Trump was coming in. And then this major conflict of interest with CNN reporter Suzanne Malveaux. I mean, that is just being literally in bed with the media. And it's just a complete conflict of interest. But all of that is being overlooked. And it's typical, this union between the radical left and the media.
Jason, wrap us up, 15 seconds.
Yeah, I think we're going to get exactly what we've been getting, which is I don't see the conflict of CNN because the entire administration is already in bed with CNN. So we're not really going to see any different. I find it condescending to focus on the identity politics here. But again, it's not necessarily shocking that it's coming from the Biden administration.
All right, you leave it right there. Jason Rantz, Jesse Jane Duff, Bobby Eberle. There are panelists on this Friday. Enjoy your weekend. We always appreciate your time. Thank you sincerely. We appreciate it.
All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.